let's go to complying. This has got to be my favorite because I think I have for many years I identified more with the complying part of myself than any other. See, in compliance, we have a very different game. We are in a completely different game. Over in compliance, our primary fears are around people and our relationships to them, and having those relationships ruptured or damaged, or maybe even being rejected. So as a result of that, our compensatory strategies around pleasing people, create a sense of belonging, conservative, being passive, don't rock the boat, don't upset things, don't raise difficult topics, and don't hold people too much accountable because they might get upset. You know what I mean? And so we don't want to upset relationship. So over here in compliance, our fears around being rejected means that we tend to manage or live in a context of trying to keep things smooth and with harmony and relationships intact while we go about doing our job. Pretty tough call, actually. Pretty tough call. Can we do our job while keeping the relationships kind of even and not too provoked? This is the tough thing we do when we have a thing of compliance. So we have built long antenna to sense how other people are feeling about us, and then we try to kind of monitor it and smooth it. And we're doing it frigging almost all the time. It's exhausting, actually. It doesn't look as highly driven as our controlling friends, but actually it's pretty bloody tiring a good deal of the time. I can remember when I first started doing training, decades ago, and I was identifying with my complying self quite a bit. And I'd be working with a group like this, but you know what I'd be doing? I'd be looking around. While I'm doing it, I'm actually looking around seeing who is it that's kind of doesn't appear to be engaged or maybe thinks I'm no good. You know what I mean? There'd be some guy or some girl sitting back a little bit like that, sitting back going, I think this might be all bullshit. You know what I mean? And I'm finding that person in fear of them. And then, this is what I'd do. I'd actually, while I'm in fear of them, in reality, I'd be putting maybe 60, 70% of all my attention on that person, trying to win them. While the other 70% would be responsive if I only ever looked at them. But I'm trying to win the one over that I think might be rejecting me. Isn't that incredible? I'm giving all my attention to my problem child. Why? Not because it's actually strategically helpful. It's because it freaks me out that we might have a rupture in our relationship, or maybe they disapprove of me. Maybe they don't like me. If you're running a team and you're compliant, you probably feel the pull of people around you who you suspect don't approve of you as much or don't appear to like you. And you might find an undue amount of attention going to them because that triggers us as compliant people. Yeah, that triggers us. It's quite awkward. So I really feel my compliance pull in when I'm confronted with that. And I can remember for many years finding I'd be giving disproportionate attention to the people I was working with based on that. In a moment, I'll be describing the protectors, but they were always the people who the protectors tend to sit back a little bit and look a little bit intellectually kind of distant and arrogant, maybe, and they're usually smart. They're the ones that freak me out a little bit. They're going to outsmart me. They're going to say something which is going to take the carpet out from under my feet and expose me as not knowing anything. So my best strategy, one of the strategies I've got, is to actually befriend them so at least they like me and they will never do that to me. Isn't that funny? This is the compliance. And so when we do the TLC and we get the feedback, for those managers who are compliant, they're telling themselves, my team loves me, the team is great, they're humming, only to discover that to the extent to which they're compliant, the team actually isn't humming at all. They're not actually highly engaged. They experience their manager as rather needy. That's kind of ugly, isn't it? They experience their manager as pleasing and failing to address important issues, not raising tough topics. Yeah. So the manager thinks, interpersonal intelligence, no one gets stuff like I do. I read a room, my friend, you know, all that sort of stuff. And maybe you do, but it's all of those skills are in service of trying to create a space that's better for me so I don't get provoked and my anxiety isn't triggered by potentially people not liking me. It's a very, can you see that? I know the controllers amongst you are over here going, that's so piss weak. You know what I mean? Imagine being orientated around all that bullshit. It's and I hope it's all right to swear on this video. I only just you know what I mean? But it's because it looks like that the controllers, right? Over here, controllers, we barely even know we're anxious. If we're anxious, we work harder and the feeling goes away pretty fast. You know, so feelings of frustration predominate our world over here. We've got to move things and why can't everyone keep up? But over here, we know the territory of anxiety pretty well. We know the vulnerability of anxiety pretty well. And so this is, and of course, it's inversely correlated to relating to the relating cluster. It's profoundly inversely correlated to leadership, and it's inversely correlated to business results. It actually is ineffective, and it's even ineffective when it comes to working with a team. There is a gifting in it, right? So the gifting of will and the gifting of heart, these people love people and they read them and they're sensitive often. But here on the reactive side, it's in service of being used in a way to manipulate the people and relationships so to help me feel safe and okay. When we can unhook from that, we can use all those giftings in service of making teams hum like nobody. And in fact, just as the controlling, the way to go when we experience ourselves as, and we identify ourselves as like I'm primarily complying, the way to go in our development, where do we work first in our development, is go just up the wheel, straight up the wheel. Just go to being a great team person and unhook from the behaviors and notice the behaviors you've been engaging in that have just been self-protective. But utilize all the giftings you've got around people because you have loads of them. Loads. You're really gifted. Really gifted. So just come here. Sometimes this is called the near enemy. It's an old Eastern saying. They used to say, you know, sure, make strategy about the enemies that are out there, but know your near enemy. They might creep up on you. Because the near enemy is we think that complying, we actually think we're relating, but we're really complying. We're not awake to it. How do you become awake to it? I want to let you know, become aware of when you get anxious and aware of out of anxiety you may be acting. It's a different feeling world down here than the one up the top. It's a different feeling, everyday experience. So this is complying, fears of rejection, wanting to stabilize and harmonize relationships, not upsetting people, and using all our gifted sensitivities with people in service of that.